committee. And his work is to take the minutes, capture the decisions, and make sure the decisions trickle down to the chief officers, who in turn trickle them down to the workforce to realize or to perform their functions. Also, the county secretary manages the logistics of the secretariat of county executive committee. The county secretary also builds a very strong link or liaison between the executive and the county assembly, because there is flow of information from the executive in terms of regulations to be made in the county assembly, and there is also a flow of, and also updating and reporting of what is happening in the executive, and also receiving information from the county assembly in form of the legislated laws which needs to be implemented. There also should be flow of resources and communication, consultation, such kind of things. Therefore, the county secretary will be in charge of that. Then we move on. He's also in charge of, he's the chair of the chief officers, because you love to sit down with them and probably deliberate on a number of issues, because you cannot take decisions to people whom you have not sat and, owned the decisions. So the county secretary also is in fleet management. At times you look at logistics of what is happening. The county secretary also is a public secretary to the governor, while the chief of staff is personal secretary. Anything which is happening, for example, a function, if there is a function and there are issues to be captured from the public or the public outcry, it is actually the county secretary to build that nexus between the governor and the public. He can also act on, represent the governor if directed on some activities. The county secretary is also the external communicator. Any information which is coming outside from the national government, international units, it actually is him to capture that information and make sure it gets in the county and does whatever it is intended to do. So I think those are some of the issues, which are a few issues, while there are more of the county secretary, which is supposed to function as an office.
Okay. I'm interested in the chair. Is the chairperson of the chief officers?
Forum.
Forum.
Yes.
But that is provided for in the law?
Well, while I was going through, while I was going through the functions of the county secretary, and even from the handbat, and even from the literature which is existing, that was provided for. I don't know whether it is in the law, but I assume this is my assumption and my presumption that if actually it was put there, then it is a common practice.
Maybe a practice, because if reading at section 44(1), the county secretary shall be head of public service, which we have had a conversation on, will be responsible for arranging the business and keeping minutes of the county executive committee, subject to the directions of the county executive committee, which is chaired by the governor and members of the county executive committee. C, convey the decisions of the county executive committee to appropriate persons or authorities. And B, the last one, perform any other functions as may be directed by the county executive committee. And then you referred to the county secretary as the chairperson of the chief officers forum.
Yeah.
It is a creation which is not provided for. So that's why I just wanted to know, so that then it is not an organ which is not provided for. Unless it exists in another administrative or subsidiary legislation.
Well, that one is there. Actually, if you look at the handbook which was given to us, and the functions of, even the fleet management is not in the constitution. You see,
I'm coming to the fleet management, because also a fleet management, a county may have one fleet manager. The Department of Health may have a fleet manager for the around repairs and all those things. The ECM and Chief Officer for Transport has a responsibility. Now, the head of public service, handling files that belongs to motor vehicles and things, maybe two, even below a chief officer. But maybe that is chewing too smooth, in my view, and that demeaning that office because the coordination is super. And I think it will be the role of the county secretary is not provided for unless I'm reminded as a chairperson. But in the aspect of conveying decision of the county executive committee, the appropriate persons or authorities, and coordinating that, it is in that position that the head of public service will coordinate with chief officers who are responsible for public service in departments, so that there is designation. But when it is quote chair, then there must be a legal instrument managing that, so that then there is no confusion between the departments and who is head, because the chief officers are directly responsible and answerable to the county executive, the respective county executive committee members. And county executive committee members are answerable and accountable to the governor. Then the other creation organ can only be for coordination purposes, but then if it is chair of a forum, may have another parallel institution that may frustrate the reporting structure as contemplated in the law as it is, not as it ought to be. That's my take. Any other question? Any member with a question?
Yeah.
Yes, Honorable Mbalo.
Thank you.
Dr. KYAMBI, Karim. My question, I wanted to know about possible challenges which you are likely to face in achieving your goals, and you have just put them. What challenges are you likely to face when you get this job as you achieve what you want to be?
Well, one of the challenges which, if given position, I may anticipate is transitional challenges. Given that these are new government taking over after another government, and there may be some, employee divide in terms of, because these people, it's their right to vote for a certain direction. They may feel that, well, there are issues, and we are still looking at the new management to see how to fix such problems. That may be a challenge. The other challenge may be probably resources, and the resources in terms of empowering the people, the workforce, to actualize their goals. This one has been an issue because the disbursement of funds has been delayed from the national government. So at times we even find probably doctors want to go on strike because they are not paid on time and employees are not comfortable. So that is also another challenge which I may anticipate. The other challenge may be just what we call internal politics of organizations, where there may be camps. That also could be another challenge, which needs a human resource high to fix such a challenge. There may be, a county government is not like a corporate body. It is, much of it is what we call, it gives back to political products. And managing, not now, this is not organizational politics, it is a county politics and also national politics, and trying to fix the different interests because of political alignments. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You have captured the key important point in that, and I wanted to hear how you will be able to handle that. Because, for example, in this county, for the last 10 years, the governors are different, maybe of different political party and whatever. Now we have another different governor. His darlings are the MAKUENI people. They overwhelmingly voted for him. The challenges of the staff who are employed by former, they are still here. How will you be able to bring them to in the same mix? That's so that they can, put them in one solution, to form a solution that can serve the interests of our governor as the head of public service. Because we have some who are employed and who are serving different categories, who are different, others who are maybe politicians who are planted for a particular reason, others are feeling they were not supporting the current, they were different. How will you bring them to be in one train and push in one direction so that you can be able to achieve maximum out of that?
I think squarely put, and thank you, Honorable Mbalo. I didn't see that. You're saying from 2013 to 2017 to 2022, there was a different administration, a cabinet, governor, and the deputy governor, and public service board, which initiated the county, and there was established a public service. And there is a current governor, new county executive committee, new chief officers, and new county secretary. Now the citizens is not a problem because the citizens can vote for anyone, and tomorrow they will move on. So you're saying there is a public service that was initiated by previous administration for over 10 years, and now there is a new administration with the old civil service or public service for that matter. And public service board that was established under previous. Of course, it is assumed public service board is continuous. And then the concern is that the political gap between the previous administration, civil service who were under that previous administration are now serving this administration. In fact, aware that some civil servants, some were campaigning for the current governor, others were campaigning for the former governor, others are campaigning for the competitor for the current governor who was petitioned, and that it is their political right. But now here they are, and the responsibility, as we've said, of head of public service is yours. But those are the cracks, and they are existing, and they are practical cracks. It is just like William Ruto assuming a public service that was under hardship, which politically was not, and it is in black and white that the former governor and the current governor may not have agreed on political positions or political postures, but they performed their duties, but may not have been on the same page on political reading. So that which is allowed and is a democratic right. Now here comes the head of public service. And the Honorable Mbalo, I think he has seen it.
In fact, that is one of the major roles of the county secretary in managing transitions. I think the whole thing boils down to management of change. And I'll quote just a simple model of Katlewin. It talks about freezing and unfreezing. You know, if I'm given this position and I take it over, now I'll create a written page to be a blank page called tabula rasa, where experience will write itself. It is a new beginning. It is a new dawn. You have to kill the seed. The seed has to die for it to germinate and grow. So the employees' cadre must be brought to the same page, knowing that we have a new beginning. Assume the past is gone. And I say this is about management of change. Because I said there are divides, and that is given. But then, as a professional, I'll focus on the potentials of the employees, what you cannot do best. If you cannot do it best, what can I make you do it best? And here, there must be a lot of impartiality, a lot of equity and equality. You give, if it is equal people, you can give them same resources to deliver. If it is, that is equality. About equity, you give somebody what he can chew and what can make him healthy to work. In other words, you will give the resources to that person depending on his level to perform. These people have to be appreciated. These people must see, I have to apply management by walking around, and they feel, they are part and parcel of me, and I'm part and parcel of them. The problem of senior managers, as I have done a lot of study, and especially in practices called high performance working practices, is to assume the office and let things roll themselves. Your figures must be on it to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to hear that you have knowledge of that and you'll pursue in that direction to bring unison in the running of the government. I've observed as a member of County Assembly, different employees, like you go to health, agriculture, you find there's an employee who has stagnated in one position for 7 years, supposed to have been promoted. Another one stayed for 3 years, he got his promotion. There is that discrepancy within the service. And most of the employees, they feel discouraged, those who have not been promoted, and they feel they have gone circle, while others are earning more than them, while they should be together, and they are all qualified. How, once you assume this position, will you be able to dig in and really find those employees who feel they have been neglected, who feel nobody has listened to them, and they have been writing, to capture them, their attention, and see that they get what they require within the shortest time, because justice delayed is justice denied. So we have really delayed their justice, and they will want to hear. And that's why I'm putting this question, because I'm sure majority of them are listening to hear what the future, the aspiring, the head of public service is saying about their situation, because there are many. They feel some were favored, because why would they be left behind? And it goes for 9 years, no promotion. Another one has taken for 3 years. Please kindly comment on that.
Well, Article 232 of our Constitution talks about principles and values of public service and how service is supposed to be delivered. And actually, that is one of the issues. Because when it comes to promotions, when it comes to considering who should move where, this one should be guided by something we call human resource audit. Because if given the opportunity, my first business in this county will be to do a thorough human resource audit. And this one will give me data in terms of the level of skills, in terms of the level of competencies, in terms of the practices which will be there, in terms of the promotions and the length of time somebody has stayed in a job group, and about performance. And from there, it will expose those kind of gaps. So I'll start from a knowledge level, and then I move now to address those gaps, because it is really, really unfair and demotivating. I talked of workforce motivation. If somebody stayed at a certain level of employment for a number of years, he has qualified, he has done all what it takes for him to make vertical mobility in his employment, and he doesn't, I tell you, that one will even work against the government, because there will be issues, and employees will have to bring issues. The person may be quiet, but then it may be a timely bomb, because several may have been subjected in the same environment. So I love to be fair. I give equal opportunity. If you, in fact, there is something we call in management reward management and reward performance. You must motivate somebody depending on his output. Thank you.
Finally, because
just starting that of employees, we have staffs who have the same job group level, same qualification, and they are employed at different levels, like contract by hospitals. That is to say, they are earning a quota of what permanent staffs are earning, and some have been there for 7 years. What is your comment when opportunity arises to employ permanent are the staffs who have been serving not supposed to be among the first ones to be considered to fill in this gap so that they can be rewarded for being there? Because really, these are staff who are earning very low salaries, and they are seeing patients in the outpatient, and they are on contract basis employed by the hospital. Now, when the board has positions for permanent, you as the head of public service, I wish that these people, because it's cutting across all the departments, not just health, such people who have been there and earned very low, there must be some points to earn like the way TSC does. People who have been somewhere in service, they should earn and be ahead of the newcomers so that they can be in a position to acquire this to be employed. Will you work out a situation that can recognize such that they can be captured and be promoted? And even employment, when it arises, their priorities should be higher than the newcomers. That is what I'm requesting.
Well, I know one of the challenges of the county government is that there has not been clear scheme of service for both contractual and probably the permanent employees. And I know they borrow so much from the one for Public Service Commission and SRC, Salaries and Remuneration Commission. I think one of the issues which is considered pertinent when you are employing is experience. And mostly, if you have somebody who has inbuilt experience and somebody else who has experience from elsewhere, on a serious note, using common man's knowledge, whom will you consider? Because you cannot, and this is somebody who has actually grown with this organization for many years. He has been part and parcel of that organization or culture. Now, this person wants to be appreciated. I've been serving. And I think I've also, this is a learning session. I've learned something which is very important. And I appreciate this. I wish I'm given this opportunity. Now, you've talked of TSC when they employ. I said I worked as a teacher and also as a head of department. I was interviewing those whom we were recruiting. Actually, the score sheet is scheduled and is organized such a way that the person who has stayed longer automatically gets what? The job. So I think this is a pertinent issue which is very pragmatic, practical, and it can really work even to motivate these people and ensure we don't have a team here which has been kept on waiting, and they'll also start the others because they are also part and parcel of the system. Thank you.
Honorable Elizabeth, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I hope you're coming here to raise the
This is just using simple concept, is fixing the right people to the right positions. That is in terms of academic levels, in terms of experience, in terms of the skills which they have acquired, and also quantifying that Henry and matching it with reward or compensation. Basically, that is what the scheme of service will entail.
Yes, thank you. There's a category of employees, as Honorable Mbalu has said, especially the ECD and CTTI trainers who have qualifications and are supposed to be in a particular job group but have been ignored. So I hope, as you have put it, you're going to look into their plight, because those are devolved functions, but teachers are always viewed in a different eye when it comes to, on all levels, even the national government. You find the salary of a teacher, the salary scale of teachers is not the same as a graduate in another industry. So I would want you to look into that, as you have said. Who are the stakeholders of our county government, according to you? The stakeholders.
Well, for me, stakeholders will be like the players in the county government. And the players are, we have the executive, we have the assembly, Wanahinchi, we have still the business community, we have professionals, we have the clergy. Well, those, I can treat those ones as the stakeholders and the ones who make a county government run.
Okay, thank you. Kindly comment on the principles and values of public service, or the instruments that you're going to use in your service as a CS.
Well, Article 232 is the one which talks about principles and values of public service. And it's all about, delivery of service and how it is supposed to be treated. For example, it gives issues, it addresses issues like when you are making communication, it has to be transparent, it has to be timely. When you are considering promotions, the way Mheshimiwa has put it, you must actually have some fairness. When you are considering people for training, give them equal opportunity so that they can exercise their abilities. Also, issues have to be done professionally. And there must be a lot of also equality in dispensation of services. And that is basically what it entails. And then there is also the Article 10, which talks about national values and the principles of governance. Issues to do with patriotism, issues to deal with, diversity, inclusion, issues to do with governance, good governance, issues to do with fairness and involving people in policy making, such kind of things.
And what legal instruments are you going to use in your service if given this position? Like where will you be referring when you want to deal with issues in your office? What documents, for example, are you going to be using to deliver your services?
Well, there is a constitution, which is a overall guiding document. Still, we have the County Public Service Manual, County Public Service Human Resource Manual, which is much of it is borrowed from public service, overall public service. There are also other documents which can guide you, like CINDPs. That's also a major document. It is the one which will tell you what the county is there to do. Laws also which will be legislated in the county assembly. It is also, because they are also documented, I'll have to go through and be guided on what exactly to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One last question. There has been an audit query on the government surpassing the set. So it shouldn't go beyond, the current shouldn't go beyond 35%. The last report we were looking into as PIAC had a query because it was at 41%. I'm sure right now it's over that, and that's basically because probably of remuneration, the allowances are too high, the maintenance and stuff they are costing so much. What measures are you going to put to ensure that we are within the percentages that are provided for?
Okay. I think everything has to be done within law, because there has to be a documentation as to, for example, if an officer moves out for maybe a tour or something like that, what the remuneration which is supposed to be made. But I'm impressed by one thing in the Ruto government, though I'm not getting the line of politics, because we also have to observe what is working and what is not working. When Ruto communicated to his ministers, and he told them it is not just a walk in the park. You remember there is a time they went for a function, and he told them, who will pay for these drivers? Who will pay for these years? Because we must against a gear of cost cutting. Our people are dying of hunger there. Our people doesn't have water. Infrastructure is an issue. Therefore, the organization or MAKUENI account must be tuned to actually operate in an environment of cost cutting. You know, when people talk of cost cutting, it doesn't mean you don't get your salary, your allowances, but then we should now operate at minimal at expenditure, not the upper limit, so that we can do some savings and we can adjust the percentage to come down and realign with the development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was just looking at your documents and I've seen Hornet Limited appointed you as managing director. What is the relationship between this Hornet Limited and the matatus that took me to school when I was in high school back then? Is it the same people?
Well, thank you. That is the same Hornet, and of course that has been in my site as well. Yes, so it's the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Kaluna.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I have very quick questions. One, I have listened very keenly on what the candidate is expected to do. I'm asking, my first question will be, what will be your typical week as a county secretary in the public service? A typical week for you, if you are given this position and sworn into the office and now inaugurated, what will be a typical week for you?
Okay, thank you. I think that one more or less boils down to functions. And of course, if there are meetings, executive committee meetings, I'll take minutes. I'll also manage the secretariat there. I'll also expect, to get issues from the public service and address them and fix them. I will also have to participate in some select committees and semi-government autonomous bodies, where probably I'll interact and get information. I will also, be the custodian of the county government in terms of public service. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At least so concluded very well. Then your legal obligations. What will be your legal obligations to the county assembly when you get into this office? You have not been appointed yet. What will be your legal obligations and your relationship with the county assembly?
Well, as I earlier mentioned, the county secretary is the liaison. Is actually the instrument between the executive and the county assembly. There is information which flows from the executive to the assembly. It may be in form of, discussions where regulations are needed, and that information should actually get to the county assembly on a timely basis. There is also facilitation of resources. That one also has to be done, the communication and the management of it as to the information as to flow, right? And ensure whoever is supposed to is in charge of such is supposed to do it. In fact, that has been one of the issues and the wage, the conflict between the county assembly and the executive, because this is supposed to be done, but because there is no cordial relationship, it is maybe delayed, or there is some kind of politics. We need to operate with a lot of transparency. Also, the county assembly will have to make some legislations. Those legislations, once they are done and dropped in my office, it has to move very fast to the various consumer departments.
Well, thank you. On also the legal, there is the appointing authority and also the reporting. Can the assembly ask you to maybe do your job if you have not been seen to be doing one? Can the assembly have any input into your job as a county secretary if you are appointed?
Well, I don't have much exposure in this, but my take is this. The county, there must be a seamless service delivery between the executive and the county assembly. And therefore, what I'm saying is there must be a lot of consultations. If there are issues in the assembly and they need to be consumed at the level of the county secretary's office, then I think I'll be very open and listen, because I have to be real on the other side, right? So I will have no issues so long as we are within the law, so long as we are within the policies, so long as we are within the rules and the regulations governing this environment.
Thank you.
Process.
Now you are asking for a job, and previously the fortunate bit is the speaker and every member here served in the previous administration. You are looking for a job. Sometimes you will get the job if the assembly passes your name. We have seen appointees whom we vetted changing just immediately after being sworn in. They change and they feel there is no legal obligations to the county assembly. Are you telling this committee and the assembly, because we are running on their behalf, that you will work according to the legal structures and we will not be following you up as a county secretary, because after maybe you get this position, you will have changed and maybe you think the assembly should not even discuss your conduct and how you are relating with the people and members of public, and also how you are representing the county executive committee in terms of any other obligation. Will this committee bestow the confidence and also continuously expect the same to happen going forward as a county secretary if you are appointed, and that is if you are passed by the assembly?
Well, as I said, I'm a professional. And as I said, though I've not managed, let me call them high levels of probably public management, I can say much of my practice has been on the corporate world, and especially when I moved it from high school. There's need to work professionally. There is also need to have a human heart. If I'm standing as a stumbling block to a certain service, to expectation of somebody who is operating within the realms of law, then I think I will be the wrong person to take up this position. I'm somebody who is very transparent. I'm somebody who is guided by integrity, and I'm sure, and this is a promise which I give, I will do my best to ensure that things are done within.
Thank you. At least you've expounded on that. But you know what the appointees will tell you is we are acting within the law to subvert even the representation that we are not expectant of. Because it also begs the question. You've talked about you have not been able to relate and to manage a high level position. What other position to spring you into this position, this big position of influence as a county secretary? Which other position? Because you've talked about being a head of a department, but we are not relating very clearly on how that may have propelled you into being a county secretary.
Okay, the fact that I've said I've not managed high-notch or administrative spaces doesn't mean I've not managed this level. As at now, I'm the executive director of a political party which is managing a level of over 1 million members. Leave alone the personnel. We have personnel who are in the secretariat and personnel who are involved in the counties. Over actually 300 to 400 personnel which are managing. When you look at WIPER and you attest to this, I think I've registered a positive in terms of administration, not in terms of politics. Therefore, to me, managing MAKUENI County is not different from the level at which I'm managing. In fact, MAKUENI County is just one out of 47 counties which I'm managing. Therefore, I still have the ability, if I can manage a national party and I place it where it is, because my best score was actually garnering the 3 governors and a WIPER party, because it is political, but my work was administrative, and that is one of the targets which I had set. Therefore, I have the ability to manage.
Yes, it is good you've mentioned, and clearly you've been leaning WIPER. What happens to people who are not WIPER? And because you have been managing a partisan position, what happens with your county secretary where it is non-partisan? You are expected to serve all. And you even talked about corporate versus other ideals. What will we expect from you? I will not talk about the conflict. Somebody else maybe will ask about the conflict of interest. But I'm talking about now you've vehemently come out saying you even delivered the 3 county governors and other members who are elected through the party you are serving currently. What happens with the people who do not subscribe to your party, like myself and other people?
Okay, thank you. I'll talk of something called identity of the moment.
Just a minute. In the interest of a question by Honorable Kalunda, in the interest of citizens of MAKUENI, and the interest of other actors in democratic practice in the county and without, having been an executive director of a political party, and now you are candidate to a county secretary of a county government, not a political party. Now, is a role executive in a partisan institution in a democratic practice. But in that entity, which is a county government, there are other actors at the county level and at the national level who may not have subscribed to the institution that you led. The other political party actors in the county assembly and the voters who did not vote, because there are so many candidates for other political parties from MCO to governor. And even nationally, where you have, there's WIPER, then Azimio, then there is UDA, and then Kenya Kwanza, entrenching itself presence within the boundaries of the county. I think it is that challenge and sensitivity that the honorable member is politely asking you to bring it out. Otherwise, you remain to be, you remain not to be his favorite because you have not belonged or you are not impartial before you are partisan. For democratic rights, for that matter, I have to state, for democratic rights, it's not criminal offense. It is, in fact, it's a practice of someone who is out to express their views and belong and not to belong.
Okay, thank you. Let me respond to your construct. And I had said I want to address the issue of identity of the moment. As at now, I am lawyer. Is WIPER Democratic Movement, which is a political party. In the WIPER Democratic Movement, I'm not a politician. I'm an administrator. In fact, decisions are made at NEC. They come to the National Management Committee, and my basic task is very simple, to implement the decisions. Therefore, if you are to measure my performance in WIPER Democratic Movement, you will not measure using the variable of political gain, but administrative gain. Allow me to continue, please. I want to add on one thing. If I'm given the position of the county secretary, the issue is very simple. We are not static. A rolling stone does not gather mold. Right? Yes. So I like to switch off from WIPER and engage the gear of MAKUENI County, which is taking the space of a number of political parties. Where there are players of a number of political parties, there are also others who do not care about the parties. What they need is the service. Thank you.
Thank you. I had to follow it up. You said, and of course, proudly said you delivered. So, and now you've evaded that. You are saying administratively, not politically. Well, it's understandable, and it is democratic right. So you should not even feel shy about that. You should even proudly be saying that every time. But now, since you've even committed that, once you become on your side or something, so that should be like, and we are from JKUAT. I have seen a letter has been sent to the county assembly through the clerk by a resident of Kitui. I don't know whether he has benefited from the copy of the letter. A letter has been sent here, and we must execute as the committee. We must execute, and we must get faster and info about this. It is written, the reference is the County Secretary nominee, Dr. Justin M. KYAMBI. Can I read? Honorable Chair, can I read?
You wish to read all the clerk?
I wish to read. Yes, clerk can take us through.
I asked the clerk to read the letter.
Yes.
You can now
Yes. I can
make your comments on the letter. It's not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of the secretary of the committee.
Yes. I get you. Thank you for informing me.
Thank you. The letter is addressed to the clerk of the county assembly from a resident in Kitui County, dated 22nd of February 2023. Dear sir, reference is right to the county secretary nominee, Dr. Justin M. KYAMBI. The above subject matter refers, I am a resident of Kitui County and I'm writing this memorandum with the intention of highlighting some issues touching on the county secretary nominee, one Dr. Justin M. KYAMBI. Prior to the 2022 general elections, the above-mentioned nominee held the powerful post of the executive director for the WIPER Democratic Movement of Kenya. It is here where many dreams of many youthful aspirants met a dead end. I per se hope to vie for an MCA seat, but the frustrations as I and others met in the process of party certificates left untold sufferings among us. In his helm of the party, he was largely partisan, corrupt, as he sought bribes openly in exchange for party certificates, and a very poor off-style management approach that left the party reeling in conspicuous losses in seats across the 3 counties where it is popular. It is for the above-mentioned reasons that deduce he isn't fit for the position and ask for a more open-minded, approachable, and integrity-laden individual for the position of a county secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We have seen and you've heard, everybody has heard about this, and we can't close it without executing. Now, this letter is written to the county assembly clerk, and it is received. So the person who wrote this as a copy of the same. I'm asking because I've looked at some of the issues which may have been mentioned here, like you are partisan, you are corrupt, since you sought bribes openly in exchange for party certificates. And then there is very poor off-site management approach. I will not follow after that. Then he's also talking about many youthful aspirants. Youthful aspirants means they are deprived a lot of power and even resources which can control how you can be elected. I was first elected while I was a youth, and also secondly in 2022 I was re-elected, still a youth. That's why I understand when he talks about youthful aspirants. What is your take on this letter?
Well, I think the complainant has raised two issues. Number one is about...
Just a minute, I want to put this into perspective. Firstly, under the Public Approval and Vetting Act of 2017 of the County Assemblies, requires the petitioners to present a petition for or against a candidate under consideration on oath. And therefore, I've scrutinized the document before us. It is not under oath. However, under commissioner for oath. However, this being information which has been provided to this committee, and any member of public can raise issues, including the issues, an issue raised by Honorable Kalonda on your previous role in the previous political party, is a matter in public domain. So it is important that you address this issue, because if the committee doesn't allow you to address it, then it will be in the hands of the complainant, and it will forever remain, and you may never have an opportunity to make clarification on this. Whereas a petition which has been commissioned can be substantively used for or against, meaning that even the petitioners will be required to provide and appear before this committee and give evidence, cross-examination, and in that case you will be required to file written responses if it is under commissioner oaths. In this case may not be the case, but it is information that has been brought before us, and therefore it is same as public information, which is your right to have a right of reply to it. Your right to have a reply, but may not measure the threshold of the law, because it's not under commission on oath. But that subject before us, which you have to respond to. Proceed.
Okay, thank you. I think two issues have been raised in this document by the complainant. The first one is calling it party certificates. The second one is the issue of corruption. Right. I don't understand the submission in line with the party certificates, because the subject of discussion is for nomination. Well, that is one of the documents which makes somebody to be considered for a nomination, right? So I think he's out of place. He or she should have mentioned probably nomination certificates. The other thing is about corruption. If I was involved in any corruption, if I solicited money from candidates, then further evidence should be provided. Probably money was sent to me through an investor. If so, it was followed by a message. If so, a clip is there on the discussion which went on. You know, there must the environment must be properly created to justify my level of corruption. Number three, executive director of a party doesn't award nomination certificates. In fact, there is nowhere my office has a responsibility to give a nomination certificate. This is purely a function of the National Management Committee, which I'm an ex officio. It has a chair, and also the party has various organs. We have NEC, we have the party leader, we have the NEC and the other organs. Therefore, the issue of corruption, the issue of being an impediment to one's progress, and especially talking of youth, I don't think whether I was partisan to this. So I think this is just somebody who is out maybe to malign my name, probably somebody who is envying my progress, but I can actually say whatever is said in this document, it doesn't apply to me.
Thank you. Thank you. We were just to mention it, since he has also not sworn an affidavit to the same or just a commission of oath. This was just to mention, and it is also good it is coming up. It is to also remind us as public servants that we need to be very careful and also follow the law. That's a very good. So the last one, I saw the documents. The academic credentials. I want to just congratulate you. You've really moved. You have really moved, and I like those certificates.
Thank you.
All the best. Don't stop. Don't stop at this moment.
Thank you.
Asante sana, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, before I proceed with my vetting, please allow me to declare my interest toward the candidate. He has confirmed that he is Executive Director of WIPER, where I am the majority leader. That does not stop me from doing my constitutional duty on vetting and a legislative chair. Thank you, Dr. KYAMBI, for coming this far. I may use a different way of vetting. You have been provided with a pen and a paper. And it's not good that you go without writing anything. I would wish so that it is used. You have used the water, but the paper and the pen needs also to be used. So therefore, I would want to just do the questions so that you respond to them each. I will start with you are is it taking oath? You did affirmation. I did not hear you go through or affirming yourself that you are a Christian, and I want to know the line of vetting, because if he's a hypocrite or somebody an atheist, I will know the line of answering. So you will need to do that whether you are Christian or you are just there. That is number one. Number two, you have. Said here that you had a company. If I heard my colleague Honorable Mutindi say called Hornet. I don't know that it was deliberate for you to call it Hornet, because Hornet is a very serious and dangerous insect known in the Kamba community, and it's very dangerous. So I don't know whether that is you may need, so that is good. We know. What that may mean on the persons of Dr. KYAMBI. If you get this position, what would you do within the first 100 days? Very critical. I have really followed your presentation or your line of answering, and indeed it is beyond doubt that your credentials and your education is really impressive, because I also heard you say about Black Page, and I don't know what Black Page you say, another name that perhaps that rather is what I want you to tell us what it is when you are responding, because I've had it for the first time here. And tabula rasa, maybe Honorable Professor Kalunda may be in that page. You may need to explain that, because sometimes terminologies may really go to the public. And Makueni residents are watching you live, which is very good, Chair, that you organize for this. Now, I have noted that you're also a research person, and I'm very sure now that you come from Makueni and in particular Elema Ward, you have been following Makueni. And the first county secretary did not serve for long, who is Mr. Muteti. The second one was Wambua, Mr. Wambua, known as JW. We also have Wasanga. We had Mutie, and we have been having an acting secretary, Rael, who has been like perennial acting secretary. And now we have this vacant position. Why high turnover for that short period? Perhaps you may need to, out of your own research, because I know you have done a lot of research. Then there is this issue of politics. I mean, I don't know whether you are you have a godfather or you have been brought other than applying. Perhaps maybe the party leader has told you, can you go and take that by force because the government is WIPER. Maybe you need to clearly, of course, make it, very white and black that you are a man of yourself. So maybe the governor himself has told you, now you must come here, So I think it's good that you say whether you are, you have a godfather. And now that you have served a political party, in 2017, if my memory serves me very well, you are a campaign manager for one David Masika. If my memory serves me, maybe you may deny or agree. Meaning, therefore, you participated in politics, although you have said you have done most of it in administrative. But here, I personally was around in 2017, and you are in a different side other than the one that we have the governor here. Do you think there could be some conflict of interest, or perhaps do you think that you may sabotage the governor sitting so that you prepare your candidate in 2027 through the chair? There is also the issue of course, although my colleague, minority has said, the balance between the county assembly and the executive. The accounting officer here in the assembly is the clerk, is a clerk, and on the other side of the executive, you shall be of course, the accounting officer, so to speak, because you'll be the head of service, public service. How would you want that to happen? I'm not sure whether it has worked very well before. How different will you do it? You are the mathematics person. I know, of course, you will use maybe the logarithm method, or I don't know, formula to make things happen. And this issue, you have confirmed that you did a very good research on Mukamba community. I don't know which other research. I don't know whether the research of the candidates is anything to go by, because in 2017, WIPER had 20 elected members. In 2022, WIPER has 13 or 14 members, and you say that you did good research. Perhaps maybe you got it wrong in your research, because if you did a good research, you would have perhaps have 25 members. So you may need to say, I mean, what kind of research you did, because I know you did some polling things during that time. There are issues about you residing in Nairobi. And maybe you may prove me wrong. Given a chance, are you ready to live in Makueni for better services, or will you be using, because I am very sure the county secretary, we have a vehicle, a 17 CG chauffeur with a driver. Will you want to use that as, Nairobi is not very far, be going to Nairobi? I know you live, maybe you can say that because now we have this expressway, it is not very far. So you may confirm that you will be living in Nairobi, or you may wish to change. As I finish, Mr. Chair,
I noticed and I am aware that there are some employees who used to work as chief officers. And the chief officers, you know the process that they undergo. But now they are directors on permanent and pensionable basis. As a county secretary and the head of, service, what is your take on this? And how will you, perhaps, because those employees may feel that, well, we are just there, and may they not offer best quality service? Because having been CEOs, don't you think they would be sabotaging the current ones who are there? That is something that I would wish you to respond on. Then the issue of worthiness or net worth. I can see the suit you are wearing on is a khaki, and perhaps meaning that you could be a person who is of value. Please tell us your net worth and the sources of that net worth, so that we know how to rate you on that. I think, Chair, if you allow, that is just the line of questions that I wanted to put to the candidate. I thank you. I don't know whether it will be in order to wait for the chair to come, because he may need to have some additional questions, or you can respond. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I proceed?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Your question number one is whether I'm a Christian or whichever religion. I'm a Christian. I'm a deacon in a church called Jesus Celebration Center, headed by Life. When the pastor is not on pulpit, I do preach. Number two, it is about the company name Onet. By the way, Onet is something we call in Kikamba Ngola, and I will not finish. It is more seniors than even the Wosi. And and it is very correct actually to ask that question. By the time I established this company, I think the environment was very turbulent. I had very many wars, and I was really struggling to make ends meet. And I was reading the Bible, where I read somewhere, I cannot remember the book, but it was saying, I will send Onet to drive the Canaanites out of the land, and my people will settle. So that is actually the strength of my company name. Number three is about quick fixes in the first 100 days. And as I said, my first and foremost thing is to do the audit. Once I do the audit, it will tell me the Cladel I'm supposed to head. I'll also fix issues of labor relations. If they are sour, I'll move very fast to ensure that there is a very good working relationship among us employees. I'll also ensure that there is maximum functionality between the executive and the because I do not wish to be months, 1 year, or 2 years county secretary. I want to serve. If the government gives me a contract of 5 years, which is the law, I finish. If it comes back and I'm nominated, I will still continue with the work. So that is an issue of research on a serious note, because I cannot give reasons. The issue of whether I'm here on my own or I've been sent or representing interests of somebody. Let me say I'm on my own and I'll be non-partisan given the opportunity, and I'm not representing interests of anybody. About and switching of the gear. Masika was still contesting. There were still people managing his campaigns, but I was not there. So actually that is a test that once I move from something, I move out for good. So I will not, of course, apply double standards. There will be no conflict of interest. The other one is enhancing the relationship between the executive or my work and the county assembly. You see, and I said previously, people have to consult. In fact, the things which make people differ, they are the simple things, right? So I'll use the tool of consultation, information flow. I love to listen. I love to do what it calls me to do. I love to be non-partisan because it is also this is also a political institution. So that is exactly what I'll do and how I'll manage it. So personally, I don't think whether I'll have issues to handle that, because this is an area which I have studied and I know. Then the other one is the popularity rating. The data which I was doing. I think this data elicited a lot of issues. But let me say this. This data was commissioned by the party. And we were just, because as a party, you have to do a lot of popularity rating. It was not us alone. In fact, Muungano, there is a time when we were contesting for this, is it Masumba, or which word is this? And actually, let me congratulate Muungano. It was quite ahead with data than us in WIPER. Therefore, this was just something which I was requested by the party leader to do, so that at least there is some information and basis of decision making. Now, I know there was a low number of maybe the MCS in MAKUENI, but ideally, even the overall performance of MCS, the ones which we got, it was not high. But then I'm talking of WIPER performing as an institution under my administration, the totality of its performance in terms of the number of seats, because I increased the MPs, I increased the governors, I increased the women reps. So it is only the aspect and the variable of MCS which dropped. Otherwise, the others went up. So in totality, I performed. I'm not a Nairobi resident. I'm a MAKUENI resident. In fact, where we are, it is just a stone throw.
I think the question be by the leader of the majority. As a leader of the majority party in the county assembly, he is not concerned about MP, he is not concerned about himself. He is a former leader of the majority party, which had more numbers. He is now a leader of the majority party with a fewer numbers. So his question was, what happened such that now he is leading a lesser flock, and before he was leading a supreme flock, in the context of the position that he has been serving?
I thank you, Chair, for that clarification. Because if indeed a research gave the correct information, And I don't know. And that's why we are talking about this kind of letter, although you have explained yourself to it. I think that is the line. I mean, did you give the wrong research or did you got it wrong?
Thank you. A research is governed by three spaces of variables. There is independent, and moderating variables. There is dependent, and moderating variables. The performance of WIPER depended on a number of variables, right? And then there were other factors, external factors, which were moderating our environment. And I don't want to put naked my house of WIPER, where you are the majority, but I'm sure there were more compelling factors which meant the party not to perform. The information which was given does not mean it was 100%, projecting on what will happen. Remember, if we say there was number one in the WIPER party, and probably that number one was not the one which we picked was number one, and that number one was not number one in the overall space. That number one may have been picked probably by another party. There is also the issue of resources. There is also the issue of coordination. A number of variables may have actually played down the performance. But all in all, I did a study. Okay, I think the residence issue, I belong to MAKUENI. And I think I have stayed in this county and in this town slightly longer than majority of you. This is where I have invested. This is where I have my home. And I'm just a stone throw. And I'm there. In fact, today I didn't actually go to an hotel. I slept in my own home. So I'll be in MAKUENI. I said I'll engage cost cutting. And one of the cost cutting is to ensure that the big guzzler doesn't consume the money to feed the poor man in the village. And I'll just be traveling a few meters and I'm at my place. And that car will drop me there, then come back to be parked here. I'll use my pickup. Then there is, I think we have tackled the issue of chief officers who and directors. That is done. My net worth. I gave us my document, which I scribbled something, and I think I'm even straining to achieve what I'm given there. I cannot even say I'm moderate. I can say I'm a poor man who wants also to get up. Because if I compare myself with my equals, let me say, I can say somebody actually told me, a certain engineer, you went so fast to capture knowledge and you forgot about money. And this one I can confess, because I can say my work is just approximately on the upper limit, overstretched, around 20 million. And that one is basically the plots, some small plots I have here, which are around 7, 8. But we started buying plots here when a 50 by 100 was 350,000. I bought a plot at 80,000 here during those long days. So still I have my land, which was given to be my father, which is around 20 to 30 acres. That's where I farm. I still have land in Ketri, to a tune of 116 acres. But funny enough, 1 acre, I was buying it at 10,000. I even have the documents. So that is almost 1 million. But let me say, I have utilized the place. It has over 100 goats. It has over 50 heads of cattle. So that's what I'm doing. I still have my hornet, which is very dangerous. The dangerous animal, which is still, I say, is a side hustle. So basically, I have, in fact, I have only one vehicle because the other one is for my wife. So, and I can and an only pickup. So, well, that's what I have. Thank you.
I don't know whether that was the last one, was it?
Yeah,
In
that
that
was the
questioning.
last
And you know, when you say you are a poor man of 20 million, I don't know what the poor persons will say.
Poor is relative.
Okay, that's okay. Poor is relative. Is also poor. So I think, Chair, those questions have been responded to, and I want to believe that the candidate we will do a report on that. But now the Chair will conclude. I thank you.
Honorable Golondo, you have a supplementary question?
Yes.
Proceed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I like the engagement by the majority leader with the honest thing. We have a small issue we wish also to bring to your attention. Maybe because of the turnover of the county secretaries, they have not been able to handle that. The contracted workers and employees. We have seen even how they struggle. Sometimes their contracts are not more than 1 year. And they have stayed in the service for more than 7 years. Very productive members of staff, but their contracts have to be, because the Honorable Majority Leader talked of Godfather. Sometimes they don't have Godfather to even have. How do you understand the relationship with the public service board? Those are my two questions. Thank you. Thank you, Rapocha.
Yes.
Okay. I think about the contracted workers. I will refer to the labor laws. You know, and I think this is one of the issues which need to be urgently fixed. Because if you contract an employee for a certain period of time, then he qualifies to be permanent and to be an employee of that particular organization. And the law is very clear, right? Therefore, I know it's a case, and some of these issues were being done probably to fix some problems and also address individual problems. But I think personally, I would like to re-examine this and see also how I can fix this, because if there is an employee who is contracted and he has been serving for quite a while, he's not being absorbed. You know, there are also other factors to consider, because there are also issues of resources. You cannot overstretch. There is also the threshold, what you're supposed to do within what time. So I think this one will be guided by a number of issues, which of course I'll learn once I come here and given the opportunity. Now, about the public service, about the county secretary and the public service, the public service board is the employer. The public service board is the body which supports also to do performance, to direct issues of performance management of employees. I think basically when you come to the side of the CS or the county secretary has to work closely with the public service board, but then it should not influence their functions, because that is an autonomous body. But which is actually more or less answerable to the county assembly, even more than the CS. It's not answerable to CS because the reports, I think, if I'm not wrong, they are supposed to report to the assembly. So there has to be a control relationship, and because the county secretary is also heading the public service, if there are issues to be identified, which are identified, then the public service board is a key player. There has to be consultations. If there are issues you think they need to be addressed, and the answerable and accountable unit is a public service board, then it has to be channeled through that direction. If there are issues which needs to be addressed from the CSS point of view, then it has actually to be determined which is which. So those are some of the issues which I can focus if I become the county secretary.
I want us to have a conversation, and if I may ask you, or I inform you, is that the county governments act as how many chapters? As 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Out of the 14 parts or chapters that we have, do you know the largest chapter?
No, I'm not a student, so I partially interact with I even hear it.
So I want to ask you to take account and ask yourself a question. Why is it that the chapter on county public service is the largest in form of sections, as highest number of sections than any other? And that explains the sensitivity of the public service in implementation of the county government. I just want us to qualify that. I will request the clerk to advantage you with a copy of the County Government Act, because I want to pick your understanding on 2 or 3 sections. What is your understanding in the context of county public service? Why I want to pick that, it has a relationship with the current practice, having practice in county, and therefore there are issues that have emanated or are not clear, but I want to speak or understand your perspective of that. I wish to refer you to section 44(3) of the County Government Act. You are at 44?
44.
Of the County Government Act.
Embodiment of
44(3). 44 subsection 3.
Yes, the county secretary shall.
Proceed.
The county secretary shall.
That microphone, I don't. Or you need to lower it. Just adjust it.
The county secretary shall A, be the head of the county public service. B, be responsible for arranging the business and keeping the minutes of the county executive committee, subject to the directions of the executive committee. C.
No, hold on. I want us to limit us to the chapter or sections on public service. Now read that section 44(3)(a), A of the public service, and versus section 45(2). 45(2) and 3.
Okay, do I go back to 3A?
No, you have read section 44.
So I go to 2 and 3.
No, you go to section 45,
45,
2 and 3.
The office of a county chief officer shall be an office in the county public service.
45.
Then 3, a county chief officer shall be responsible to the respective county executive committee member of the administration of county department
about establishing the county executive shall determine organization and the department, a director, and so forth. Now, in the context of county public service, the CS is the head of public service. Section 45 provides that a chief officer, if the CS is the head of the public service and the chief officer is an office in the public service, it follows without saying that then there is a direct connection between the chief officer and the county secretary, back and forth. But 45 provides that the chief officer will be responsible to the respective county executive committee member for the administration of a county department as provided under section 46. And the administration in this context, it means that then the administrator of public service programs and is a chief officer. Now, what is your understanding of the potential conflict? CS is the head of public service in relation to chief officer versus the 10th chief officer who is accountable, answerable to a county executive committee member for that department.
Well, thank you.
What is your understanding? Because an officer who is torn in between 2 points of call. A chief officer who is under the CS on matters of public service. But that public service is happening in a department where the boss is the county executive committee member, not the CS. What is your understanding?
Well,
and as a human resource authority, your understanding.
Well, I think the Constitution constitutional issues are addressed in human resource. Constitutional issues are too wide, and at times they may be silent. That's why when you read it, like it's conflicting. But we have policies and regulations which guide the same. Now that is what will actually make somebody understand more on the lines of persons. But this is what I can say. The county secretary is the head of public service.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, what is the role? Because now we have to ask ourselves so that we get clarity of thoughts. What is the role of a county executive member in managing each department? Personally, I will not say this is my thinking. My line of persons is just along the public service, right?
Yes.
I know if there are decisions in form of programs, in form of activities to be carried out, they will be discussed at the level of county executive committee.
Yes.
And then mine is to communicate the decisions. It is not stopping the executive member to communicate decisions, but remember these are documented decisions, because my simple work will be documentation.
So now this communication, a resolution of a county executive committee, the meeting is resolved and there is a resolution XYZ.
Yes.
The CS will communicate and it is directed on implementation of programs or a policy to departments.
Yeah.
So that communication will be directed to the CEO, chief officer, or to the executive committee member.
According to my understanding.
According to your understanding.
According to my understanding, because the executive member deliberated on this, so is waiting for this official communication. So it will move direct to the chief officer through documentation. And then, if for example is a project, like let's take an example of a dam to be built. Who should actually oversee that? It is not the county secretary. That is now the nexus between the chief officer and the executive committee member. It is the executive committee member to ensure that one has been executed. If there are HR issues in the execution of this duty, then that is the time the county secretary will come in. There may be some issues of probably somebody who is sick and cannot perform. There may be issues of somebody who is not ready to cooperate. That element of lack of cooperativeness should be addressed by the county secretary. But when it comes to performance, whether this has been done or not, and whether the project has been actualized or not, that is not, according to me, that is not the business of the CS, but it is the business of the county executive committee member.
Now, fair. I want to put it to you, having practiced in counties from 2013, this is where the governor suffered. Because a resolution of county executive committee on a policy issue or a decision where the executive committee has resolved, it lands to the department from the secretary to the cabinet, addressed to the chief officer. But the executive committee member who sat may not be privy to that communication, whether it has arrived, and there is need to implement that policy at departmental level. So it requires a chief officer who is responsible on day-to-day management and implementation of cabinet decisions, for that matter, to sit under the leadership of the county executive committee member and plan on which human resource and other resources to be employed to implement. Then you find there is a chief officers forum, a creation, which becomes an implementation instrument, discussion on how to implement government decisions that were made at cabinet level. I'm just giving you information. But the executive committee member is not party to those discussions on the details on implementation. When a consensus and timelines have been arrived at the chief officer's meeting with the county secretary on what is to be done and when by all chief officers, the chief officer reports at 11 to the county executive committee member's office to discuss on implementation on administrative decisions that have been made at chief officers meeting with the CS. But the plans of the executive committee member who is responsible for that department and answerable to the governor and the county assembly on matters and affairs of the assembly has a different viewpoint on how that departmental program should be implemented, having participated in the cabinet. Then the waziri withdraws and allows the powerful chief officers to run. A while back, we had complaints where some ministers, executive committee members felt they then let the chief officers run their affairs because they sit, they plan, and they decide, and they have been directed by the CS. Then they feel not consulted in running the affairs of the department. So when I asked about the chief officers forum, out of experience, I can see the danger of an officer in the name of a chief officer who is in public service but has to work under the CS in planning and management of service delivery at county level, but the same chief officer is responsible to a county executive committee member. But whenever there are issues on accountability on public directly, or to the governor when addressing public, or before the floor of the county assembly or on committees, it is the county executive committee member who is responsible for that. Remember, the governor can remove the county executive committee member on basis of incompetence and other reasons. And the assembly, by way of a motion, may recommend removal. In fact, may remove directly. They no longer required to recommend to the governor. So the chief officer is not a candidate. So I wanted your understanding to that because it's a very fluid, dangerous roundabout that can capsize or can cause accidents. And then therefore, the big train led by a governor and the county government gets into a mess. Therefore, the willingness and gelling to deliver services is affected at that management level. I hope you get my point. I've picked your understanding, but I've put forward a conversation. But I picked your understanding. But it's a hot potato.
Chair, allow me to interject.
Yes.
My understanding is because you're talking of actually kind of a lapse, a lacuna between the chief officer and executive member, where he is given information. It's like his office is bypassed. He sees things happening. The chief officer is assuming a very powerful position, and then he may be summoned. The executive member may be summoned in the assembly to actually deal with issues
Or in public.
or in the public. My understanding is this. Once I note down in minutes of a decision or a resolution which has been made in executive committee, my business will be very simple. This is a department. It is who is the most senior person in that department. It is the chief. It is the executive, the county executive member, right? Therefore, communication as it flows, in fact, as this information flows to the chief officer, it must be also exhausted between me and the head of that department. In fact, it is just being taken to the chief officer to implement. Otherwise, it has to be digested, concretized, and broken into pieces which are consumable at the level of the county secretary and executive committee member. Then it is pulled down now to the chief officer. Therefore, any communication which goes to the chief officer, according to me, the first person to get a copy is actually the executive committee members. If there are issues, he can respond. I may actually have captured it wrongly. He can have some additions of what we did, so that now as it goes to the chief officer, it is automatically agreed at the higher levels. Thank you.
Okay, my text would be the executive committee comprises of the governor, the deputy governor, and the county executive committee member. It's a meeting, it's a workshop. You process thoughts to ideas, you're implementing policies. In the context of a county member appears before county assembly committee and they thrash out an issue, the clerk of the county assembly will not write to the chief officer, will still write member. And the chairperson of that committee and county executive as a government. Now my take could be that the resolutions of the county executive committee members, but such communication is copied to the chief officer. However, collaboration of other chief officers across the department, the CS now may coordinate because you require finance, you require agriculture. Now the gap is when it is addressed to the subordinate officer who, in the department. My submission to you will be that as a human resource practitioner, not as a candidate, it is a resolution to be communicated to the unit, and the unit must come up with an implementation matrix, which again, at the second day, the chief officer should be able to explain, so that then the department takes responsibility. And in the following meeting of the county executive committee, that responsible executive committee member will give a report on the status of implementation or action that was taken. Otherwise, then it will be required the CS to get the implementation status and report to the cabinet, which is not the case. It's not the responsibility of the CS to report to the cabinet. It is the responsibility of the ECM to report and represent the department in the cabinet. There's another one which is Tony. But I've given you my view and practice, and it's a potential area of conflicting counties. There's another one that is Tony. Section 63. Section 63. What is your understanding on section 63 2A? Section 63(2). You may read please. 2.
I read 2A.
Yeah.
The power of the County Public Service Board under subsection 1 shall be exercised at the request of the relevant county chief officer of the department to which the appointment is to be made.
If you read that together with 44(3), head of public service is a CS. And here the chief officer, the power of the County Public Service Board under subsection 1 shall be exercised at the request of the relevant chief officer of the department to which the appointment is made. Now, here is a chief officer who can make direct requests to the County Public Service Board. But the chief officer is answerable to an executive committee member. But the same chief officer is serving in office in public service held by the County Public Service. It looks like a DJ who is playing a music that you must mix a religious song with reggae and rumba music, and there must be harmony and people must dance. So there is public service board again in the mix, chief officer handling matters of relation directly to the County Public Service Board, and the chief officer is an office in the County Public Service in which the CS is the head of the public service. Or what is your understanding, or you concretely look at it? I mean, it's not an examination, it's a conversation that on the weighty nature of the head of the office of the head of public service. Meaning, the chief officer and the CS can make a request to the Public Service Board without information of the County Executive Committee member on employment. But the minister may, at the departmental level, may decline, or vice versa. A department may initiate a request on employment between it and the Public Service Board, but the head of public service is not aware, which again is an area of conflict. Or the chief officer on his own may decide that it is my responsibility to engage the Public Service Board, even without copying that letter to the head of public service. But that chief officer is responsible to the executive committee member who will appear before the County Assembly and account for the officers below the department. Discipline in a department the executive committee member would.
There is a scholar called Peter Drecker who talked about MBO, management by objective. And my vision in this county, if given this position, is to tailor the work to achieve maximum output. You know, once you agree what to do in terms of objectives, you have to be candid on procedures and regulations. What is our common practice? Because we have agreed what to do, but then now it's an issue of procedure and regulation. Information which is flowing direct from chief officer to the county public service board and bypassing the boss of that department who is the executive member, actually that is even leading to something like insubordination. So the law may not be clear, and that's why we should also actually read between the lines. Always the information which comes from the chief officer should go to the immediate accountable office, which is the executive member. And that one, at that level, it will automatically reach the county secretary. Because there must be teamwork. And if we allow these disconnects, I tell you, that is how organizations fail. Because I don't understand how a chief officer can relay information to the public service board, and then it is acted upon in the absence and the knowledge of the ACM and also the county secretary. This ECM is the one actually to be put on fire if issues work against the system in this. In fact, to be on fire from right the governor and also the assembly. Therefore, there must be a lot of teamwork, consultation, and direction given to the various offices and how they can link as they link, how they can link vertically as they link horizontally.
Well, lastly, 72(1). Section 72, subsection 1.
I read.
Proceed.
The power to deploy public officers. Number 1, the power to deploy a county public officer within a department shall vest in the relevant county chief officer.
Hold on before we go to 2. What is the role of executive committee member in that department on that role of transferring officers within that department? Does the executive committee member have a role in your view?
Well, according to the law and the way it is put, it's like it doesn't have a role.
So, without the knowledge of the executive committee member, where the chief officer is responsible, a chief officer may transfer an officer from activity A to activity B. You deploy within the department, within the health sector, from agriculture to agriculture, from agriculture to Bwezi to agriculture Mboni, or same position, without involving the executive committee member. The question is, does the ECM have a role in implementation of section 72(1)?
Well, according to me, I think there is also a lacuna here. There is a gap which needs to be addressed. Because deploying a chief,
your understanding on that lacuna, head of public service to be a candidate, what would be your application and advice in form of a circular or a memo in that lacuna? That's why I asked that question. Well, the best interest of public service, and according to